Hey guys, and welcome back to another Iceborne video. If you recall my last build video, I talked about the Greatsword meta, broke down some of the numbers and tried to come up with some build ideas that could match the meta. It was tricky to figure out how to do this since Master's Touch gives melee weapons so much up and edge over other armor choices, because it essentially gives them a larger sharpness bar than usual to expend. And since the last build videos and discovering the purple sharpness has become very relevant since the safi weapons and doing max damage, I figured out a way to get infinite purple sharpness on these builds without the need of having to run any of the Tostra armor pieces, but also make it comfortable enough to make it viable. So let's check the sets. First we have a free meal greatsword build with 3-piece safi, 2-piece tigrex with a tigrex mod on the greatsword. Next we have a Frostcraft greatsword build for standard greatsword play with 3 pieces of Valkana armor, with 1 piece on the greatsword with a Damascus chest and Dota waist. And then lastly a 3-piece safi set with pieces from Rajang, which funny enough gives us Mindsight for free, apart from the armor pieces on the greatsword. Each greatsword has been modded the same with 2 sharpness mods to reach purple without handicraft and then max attack and or the armor skill mod. Now let's break down the builds. First let's address the infinite sharpness claim I stated about the builds. As you can see, each build has been equipped with speed sharpness 3, and then each build also has protective polish. It is through this strategy and build concocting that we are able to have near infinite purple sharpness. Protective polish gives us a minute free from having to expend any of our sharpness, and coupled with speed sharpness, which only forces us to sit through 1 swipe to sharpen rather than the entire cycle, which will again activate protective polish to give us another free minute. It's a rather different but unique interaction between the 2 skills. Now you maybe think the commit of speed sharpening 3 is a lot, but if you have the right decorations it ends up being a byproduct of other skills you may actually want to use. Another thing to note is even without protective polish, since you have 2 sharpness mods that make up your purple sharpness, you can still manage if you don't have a protective polish decoration, but at the very least speed sharpening is key. And now for the premise of each greatsword. Don't be fooled by my greatsword choices. Apply ailments on greatswords are horrible unless you're using blast or poison, and even then the build-up threshold gets harder to apply every time. So I recommend focusing on blast or poison specifically if you plan on replicating the builds, because they offer the most benefit for greatswords. The only reason why I chose these greatswords was because they came with the armor skills I was looking to build for, so it was better to build them as is rather than fishing for the skills through the upgrade system. But now a little explanation for the builds themselves. Firstly, I should say that I believe safi could be amazing for a greatsword because the added ailment bonus and affinity is a godsend of the weapon. But the health drain is really not in its favor, and in my opinion in order to fully take advantage of the safi set you have to run resentment. But in order to run resentment and have it active for most of the time on greatsword, you can't run a health augment because the greatsword hits too hard and you'll heal faster than you're able to perform your true charge, making resentment useless. So in order to mitigate some of it, I thought if we ran the Tigrex essence we could heal through regular means when we need it, and since Tigrex gives you a chance not to consume a max potion, we could use it throughout the fight. It's a very niche idea but could potentially be effective. The Frostcraft set benefits from Frostcraft and the fact that we'll have infinite purple sharpness along with the natural higher raw of the greatsword. And then lastly the safi and Rajang set is a little balance of everything. High raw, infinite purple, doesn't bounce off monster hides due to the Rajang pieces. It doesn't have any way to mitigate the damage from the safi armor, so it's risky, but if you know how to play around the armor it's effective. And there you have it, greatsword builds with their own quirks and innate infinite purple sharpness. Again, I feel like it's important to say that these builds aren't meant to tell you how to play with greatsword but to just open you up to the possibilities of the weapon. These builds can also double as builds for other melee weapons as well, from longsword to hammer, to hunting horn, if you name it. It's possible, you just need to change out the decorations accordingly depending on what your weapon needs to function properly. Well, that's all for me, hunters. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you share the video with friends and be on the lookout for other build videos I have in mind for the future. But until then, my Monster Hunter fam, and like always, remember to stay classy and hunt with style.